Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Olivia Ingledue on the podcast with us. She's coming to us all the way from Iowa. She's an ACE certified personal trainer, an IPE bikini pro, and a member of Team Feeney Fit. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Olivia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory and what inspired you to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
Okay, so all throughout high school, I was like really athletic. I did volleyball, softball, track. I was very, very busy. I will say that I did not take high school lifting seriously. I was one of those girls that was like, oh, it's going to make me bulky, whatever. So when I got to college, I kind of did what most college students do. I started drinking and eating like absolute crap. I mean, macaroni and cheese was my diet. You can ask my roommate. Oh, more times than one, she told me to you're gonna be sorry. And I'm a firm believer that we are all meant to be someone, and that we have to strive to find that someone. Mm-hmm. So that was really kind of eye opening for me. I had to figure out where I needed to go. So I actually turned to, what every girl does. I turned to running, and actually eventually I picked up yoga. So I was doing running and yoga probably for 6 months, and then I decided, the thing, like skinny fat is an actual thing. And so I was like, okay, why do I not look how I want to look? So I went and started doing a 2-week challenge with weights. And eventually I got onto lifting and absolutely changed my life. Who I am as a person. I found what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. And I'm so happy. I would preach it to anybody. And so basically it was just, I was unhappy with where I was. And I knew that I could do better and I could be better. And that's kind of how I found fitness.
That's awesome. So I always sort of love to make just the observation that if you were to walk into a gym with 100 different people, there's 100 different ways as to how they got into shape, whether it comes down to their nutritioning, what they eat, how many reps they do, what exercises they use. There's so many little things that then add up to the package that we see, how someone looks. Was that a struggle for you at all, sort of realizing what worked best for your body? Because I always like to say, if you were to go up to someone and say like, wow, this body part of you is just really, really nice. What did you train for that? Or what specific exercises did you do? What works for them 99% of the time isn't going to work as good for you.
No, that's so true. I mean, everybody's different and every body is going to adjust differently to certain exercises and food and whatnot. I was pretty blessed. I didn't have too much trouble finding kind of my realm, and I'm just who I am as a person. I'm very, very driven. So when I set my mind to something, I'm going to do everything I can to get where I need to be. And I did find what worked for me quite quickly. I would say it only took me maybe 6 to 8 months until I found a spot where I was like, this is where I like, this is what I want to do. But even now, it's still ever changing. There are times where I'm like, oh, I need to mix it up. Like I've tried powerlifting. I've never tried CrossFit. I've never gone that far. And I've incorporated Olympic lifts. So, I actually am one to vary what I do. Just, constantly keeping your body guessing. You don't want to, your body can't grow if it's not challenged.
Absolutely. And I always love to ask, everyone that we have on here for the health and fitness part, you always have one body part that like really, really takes off and you don't have to train it as much. And it's just naturally just going to look good. And then you always have one body part that's struggling that you need to sort of overtrain, not really overtrain, but just train more than others just to have it keep up. What are those body parts for you?
The ones that really I struggle with is my legs, primarily my quads. From my first couple shows to my last, that was my ultimate goal. I was like, I need to put on quads. And even the judges said more quad sweeps. So that's probably the most troubled area I have. An easy one would be my arms. And primarily my shoulders. They just really took off from when I started. So I wish it was my stomach, but as a woman, I don't think any of us are blessed with that. Oh, and my butt grew like no other.
Lucky. Okay, so yeah, for me, it's like my back is something where I can train back once a month basically, and it'll still look amazing. Where I just don't know how I got it, but yeah, I'm 6'3", so legs also for me are just that's something. Yeah, yep, and I hate it so much, but you have to. I'm also not one of those. I hate when people that come on here are blessed with like those super huge calves too, where they don't have to work them at all. And for me, I could do like 10,000 calf raises a day. Wouldn't make a difference at all. And these people come on, like I had one lady who's like, oh yeah, my calves. And then she put like her calves on the table and I was like, okay, you're done here. We're done. We're not talking anymore. I got too jealous. I was like, okay, that's not fair. That's not right. So yeah, that's one of those things too, where just people, when you're comparing yourself to others, I mean, it's like you don't realize that everyone's body's different. People are just naturally blessed in every different area. I mean, everyone's got that one body part that they're just good at and that they need to work on. I mean, that's with everyone. But you did mention it when you were talking about, getting started and working out, that, I mean, it's gotten better the last 5 years with Instagram, but I always believe that there are still so many women that believe that if they touch one weight, they're just going to hulk out and put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And you said you sort of struggled with that in high school. How did you overcome that? And even now, I mean, what is your main response to that, being a personal trainer, that you probably hear that all the time?
Well, let me just start off with this. Ladies, you're not going to get big and bulky. You don't have the hormonal profile of a man. So you're not going to get big and bulky. I will put thousands of dollars on it, literally. Like, not going to happen unless you start shooting steroids or taking like testosterone pills. You're fine. So let me start there. But so I did have that issue in high school where I thought, and I mean, that was many, many years ago, where that was kind of what everyone just thought. I mean, and unless you were in the bodybuilding or the fitness industry, you really didn't know. And I still think that's true to this day. A lot of women don't know that, even unless they follow fitness people on Instagram, But what led me out of that was when I started running, and I noticed, yes, I noticed changes and I was losing weight, but my body, I mean, there was still just, it wasn't firm. It wasn't tight. There was no muscle definition or tone. I'm like, what's going on? This isn't what I want to look like. And that's when I was like, I need to try something new. And I was like, okay, weights. We'll try weights, because that's, something that I was afraid of. And then here we are, years later.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I always love to tell the story of when I was in college. I had a friend who would always say, that's when I started to get, a little bit bigger and stronger. And she would say, like, I see that you go to the gym all the time. I kind of want to go with you, but I'm just afraid of getting too bulky. And then finally one night I just said, hey, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse weighs more than a lot of the dumbbells in the gym, and you're not gaining any muscle from lugging that thing around when we go out to clubs or any place else. And that sort of convinced her. It's just one of those things where you just got to go. You just got to go and try it and just realize like the amount of work that you'd have to do, and like you said, the amount of drugs and everything else that you'd have to do to even get that huge at all. For women, I mean, it's one of those myths that I love to bust on this show. It's getting better, but hopefully we get to a certain point where no one ever thinks that. I mean, there still will always be a couple, but just to the point where we can start, people just realize that, because that's something that I think really needs to be addressed. But at what point in your journey did you decide that you wanted to compete in a show? How long into working out until you finally said like, hey, this is something I'd want to do?
Actually, I want to say it was maybe a year into lifting. Maybe eight months probably. I had some friends that have done competitions, and in Iowa, it's really not that big. It's kind of funny. So you didn't hear much about it, and that's why I was kind of antsy. I'm like, I don't know about it. There's not many places around that even really can address competing besides youth. I mean, it's kind of going out and finding your own information and going from there. I mean, finding your own coach and making sure he's a good one. We don't know. I mean, so that was kind of, my friends kind of suggested it. They gave me a coach to look into. And from there, that's kind of what got me to do it. And after my first one, I was hooked. So that's why I did 4.
Yeah. So I always love to ask, I mean, what was your first prep like? Because a lot of people don't realize just getting into shape in the first bit can be a lot for so many people when it comes to your diet and your training and basically just the schedule that you have to put yourself on and what your body has to go through. But when you go on prep, that is notching it to a whole different level when it comes to your diet, your training. Everything has to be on point. You have to work out every day, basically. You have to eat the right nutrition. You have to eat it, for a lot of people, at the right times. You have to eat the right proper amount. What was that like for you the first time going through prep?
So before I even started prep, my coach, he looked over my physique and he's like, okay, well, we need to build shoulders, glutes, hamstrings, quads, arms, and back, my lats. So I was like, so basically my whole physique. So that was kind of fun going into that. We bulked a little bit beforehand, and by the time I got on prep, it honestly wasn't that bad, because my first prep wasn't bad. My second one was god awful, but my first one, my nutrition before working with my coach, I didn't know enough about it. So I was very much kind of like a typical woman, like low carb, low fat, high protein. Like even most women are high protein, but I didn't focus enough. So that's why I wasn't gaining like I should be. So that's why when he helped me, the bulking, I had already been used to eating lower calorie amounts. So it didn't hurt me too terribly. to do the diet wise, but it was the energy. I mean, you get absolutely freaking exhausted. I mean, I kudos to the people that actually work full-time jobs and do this. At the time, I was not working a full-time job. I got to work from home and bartend, but it's miserable. You are so tired. You're so hungry. And I mean, there's literally times where you are on the ground in the gym just crying. Like it's definitely challenging, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's just like everyone like says, the working out is the easy part. The nutrition and the mental aspect of it is the hardest part. That's one thing that I've heard all the time on here. But now another thing that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, but it for a lot of people, this is the hardest part of the whole process is the posing. For a lot of people, it's hard. That's the hardest part. It's harder than the training. It's harder than the dieting. What was that experience like for you posing wise? Because I mean, for a lot of people, it can be so tough for them. And I always love to say, I make the comparison between like posing and being a driver. You can be a great driver. You can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser. You can never be a perfect poser. It's something that you can never perfect. It's always evolving. You always have to be working on it. How has that journey been like for you posing wise? Was posing something that you picked up really easy, or was it something that you really had to work on a lot?
I worked on it every single day from January till April to my show, every single day for at minimum 15 minutes. I'm not gonna lie, I looked like Bambi. I looked like I was so awkward. I didn't know how to hold my body. To begin with, I'm not a super girly girl. So like to pose myself in such graceful, elegant positions were just like, why? Like, how does someone do that? But through a lot of practice, I mean, literally and that is one thing that I don't think, I mean, yes, we practice a lot, but a lot of girls don't understand that is huge. And even for males, I mean, that is part of your routine. Like it can make or break your placing, believe it or not. I mean, so if you are up and coming to competitions, pose, literally.
Absolutely. Like I've always said, you could be the most muscular and most in shape person on the planet. If you're a crappy poser, you're not going to win anything.
Exactly.
It's 100%. I mean, and for a lot of people, it's like for some competitions, I heard it's like 30% of the overall grade that they give you. So I mean, that's that's
if
for
you
sure.
Can't pose, you can't show off the physique.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why it's so important to show off what the angles that flatter you, the body parts that flatter you, and everything. I mean, if you can't pose, yeah, you're not going to place.
Oh, 100%. And you're also, I mean, I'd like to sort of bring up, you're an IPE bikini pro. What is the difference between IPE and some other people that we've had on that are like MPC or other federations?
So the NPC is, IPE is the pro version of the NANBF. So IPE is a natural route. Not saying you can be a natural athlete and still do NPC. The IPE and the NANBF and like the NGA, those are all drug tested and polygraphed. I mean, it's very much. I mean, you have to be drug free to do those competitions. So I would say the difference basically being is that it's a 100% natural federation versus you can be a natural or you can use enhancements.
It's like 90% in the NPC. Let's be honest. For like supplement, I mean, there are some people.
It's pretty.
I've had two people on that are just these genetic freaks where I was like, okay, yeah, you are natural. Just because you can look at them and like they showed me, like I didn't believe them at first, and they showed me a photo of when they were like 5 years old, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Unless you were roiding up when you were 5, which I mean I highly doubt it. Yeah, you definitely had the genetics to do that. But yeah, I mean there's so many different federations that a lot of people just don't understand. But yeah, so they even polygraph test you?
Yeah, we get polygraphed the night before the up to anytime before the night before the show. I think it's like a week. You have a week to get polygraphed. So yeah, it's
wow, that's intense. Yeah, I've never. What was that experience like for you?
It's not as bad. I mean, it just kind of once you turn pro, you have to do it every single time. It's annoying because you go through the same routine and the same questions. So it's not terrible. The hard part is the urinalysis. If you place top 5, you can do a urinalysis. So when you're glued into your bikini and you get placed, they pull you off and they're like, okay, you got to pee in a cup. And we're like, wait, what? Like, I can't. I'm in my bikini and heels.
Yep. Yeah, we've heard so many of those stories that it really just gives even more appreciation to what the competitors go through. I mean, 100%. But I mean, you did mention this, that you're not really a girly girl. So this next question, I mean, what was that experience like with the heels that they make you wear? Was that a difficult struggle for you to learn how to walk in those heels?
Yes, because I can walk in heels, but it's like the little 3 inches, not like 5.5. So that was a huge adjustment. But honest to God, ladies, don't hurt your feet that bad, especially if you get a platform. If you get a platform, it's way more bearable. And don't get heels that don't have a platform, because you're going to be crying at the end of the show. So yes, it was adjustment at first, but after a while, I mean, it honestly doesn't hurt your feet as bad as you think. And it's just kind of learning to walk gracefully and less like a deer.
Mm-hmm. And for everyone out there, I didn't really understand much of what she said, but I'm just nodding my head because I have never worn heels in my life. But I've always said if the bodybuilders really wanted to make money, make the men's heavyweight division bodybuilders come out in high heels. That would be the most entertaining thing ever, to see like Jay Cutler and those guys come out in high heels. Yeah, I mean that would break the internet if it came out. So that's my idea. If that ever happens, you heard it here first. That's definitely what they should do. But one of the things that I love to talk about is we're both from the upper Midwest, and I'm a very pale individual myself. I mean, my thick Scandinavian roots. So what was that experience like for you putting that tan on? I mean, like everyone always talks about, everything really just pops out. You see muscles that you never even knew that you had. What was that experience like?
So the way that the tanning company did, for my first show, you got a tan the night of, and then the dark coat in the morning, but I didn't know that. So I knew I had 2 tanning sessions. So I get tan the first night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I look freaking good. So I think, it's awesome. You like the muscles, you're like, holy crap. They're like, I didn't see these because I'm pale as I'll get out. But the next morning when I got like the dark coat on, I didn't recognize myself. The first coat's great. The last coat's like, oh, yuck, I look disgusting.
Yeah, and just a lot of people don't realize, I mean, like you can't put deodorant on, you can't do stuff like that. So I always tell people never go backstage, because if you want to know what death smells like, I mean, go back there, because that can't be the best smell in the world. I mean, I would personally just have like those nose plugs in just to make sure that
Honestly, it's not that bad when you're back there, but maybe it's because you're just kind of like you've smelled it for a day. But I know, like, I've had people back there and they'll say, I mean, you guys reek. And I'm like, yeah, like, I know, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, probably my favorite question to ask, and a question that I ask all my guests, whether they be, bands or people that compete or anything else, is what is that feeling like for you when you get to step on stage and, show off all of that hard work that you've been working on months upon months for? I mean, going through basically a living hell that is prep, and, finally being able to show off all of that hard work and dedication. What is that feeling like for you?
Honestly, I never got nervous before show. It's an undescribable feeling. And maybe it's not like that for everyone, but if you truly love it and enjoy it, it's that undescribable feeling. I mean, you're on cloud 9, you're out there, the adrenaline's up. I mean, half the time you take pre-workout before and you're just skyrocketed on caffeine, but it's so fun. I love it. And like I said, it's undescribable.
Oh, like I always say, find what makes you feel just like what she was describing in life. I mean, for me, it was with baseball, being a pitcher, just me and the batter, just facing down. That's what I really got joy out of. And then we have, like bands that really brings them joy. So I mean, it's like, as long as you find that one thing that just brings you a lot of joy in life, find it and do it. And I mean, that's, in my 24 years of existing, that's probably the best piece of advice that I have out there for you. Maybe in another 24, I'll have some better advice, but that's all I got right now. But now we go to probably my favorite question to ask is, what is your go-to post-show meal?
Oh, God. Casey's pepperoni pizza. Ooh. I ate a whole large one after my last show, all by myself.
Oh, that's gotta be so good. And what does that taste like when you haven't had anything? I mean, some people don't realize that for shows, people do sometimes eat like some carbs right before they step on stage just to make everything pop out a little bit. But what is that feeling like after not having eaten anything really that had any carbs or anything that was really bad for you after, for months and months? What is that feeling like when you finally get to eat it?
It's literally like heaven. Like you could just sink in. Like I remember that moment, like biting into my first piece. Like you can't even wait. I went into Casey's, picked it up, and just sat in my car and just mowed down. Like I told my family, I'm like, sorry, we're not going out to eat. I want my Casey's pizza.
Yeah. I know. I said if I ever compete, I'd probably just get like 2 big double hamburgers from Five Guys and just pound them down. That's my go-to cheat meal. I go there once a week. I mean, I gotta have it. It's an addiction, but yeah, I pull through. But now probably one of the most important questions. I mean, a lot of people, when my friends watch these or anyone else that messages me, say like, wow, these people that you have on the show, they must be, jacked and shredded 365 days out of the year. They don't realize that look that you have on stage is not sustainable. People get to a certain leanness that, I mean, you are not going to be able to look like that year round. For a lot of people that we've had on the show, it's very, very hard for them realizing that, I am going to have to put on some weight, and this is not a look that I'm going to be able to keep. Was that a struggle for you, realizing that, like all these months upon months of hard work, eventually I am going to have to put on some weight just because it's not healthy, the weight that I'm at for the show? I mean, it's good to maybe have for a day or two, but a lot of people even, a week afterwards have gained about 20 pounds just from not being able to reverse diet or not being able to really control themselves, just because, like you said, when you haven't eaten that much good stuff for a while, it can be hard to, stay off of it. But was that ever a struggle for you? And what are some ways that you sort of mentally prepare yourself for the fact that, like, I am going to have to put on weight after a show?
Yeah, I've actually struggled with it with both preps. It's something I really don't have any recommendations for besides keep pushing through. Eventually you'll get to a point where your mind understands that it's not really an option, as bad as you want to stay. That it's hard when you see those shreds and you're like, gosh dang, and like, I want to look like this all the time. But I mean, it's sacrificing your metabolism, your mental stability, all that. Is it really worth being that lean? I mean, you can still see abs, like when you gain 10 pounds, I mean, it's still possible. I mean, it's just, we don't need to be that lean. It's not healthy. I've really struggled with it, but it's just continuing to push through and understand that you're going to be fine. I mean, if you still are leaner than like the majority of the people, like it just, we don't see ourselves as being that lean because we've seen ourselves super lean, but to everybody's like, oh, you're so skinny.
Yeah, I know. We hear that all. And I got to give, my personal, like, 2 cents is that, especially living in climates like we live in where it can get very, very cold, you do not want to be that lean when it gets that cold out, because you are going, that makes being cold even worse. Because we've had people on here that are like, at like single digit body fat percentages, and then they're like, yeah, when it's even when it's like 50 degrees out there, it feels like it's like 10 degrees outside, just because your body is just, it doesn't have the fat to really absorb a lot of heat so that you can stay warmer. That's why, like, for me, I got to put on at least 10 pounds before every winter, because that's, otherwise I go crazy, because I'm like, I do feel like just a skeleton sometimes just walking out even to my car. So yeah, that's some. But again, I always like to say, for people that are from the upper Midwest, what are some tips that you have for people out there, especially in the states that we live in, where it can get very, very cold and all the time? Your body is just naturally going to want to just stay inside and sleep or rest, watch Netflix. It won't want to go outside when it's like -10. What are some tips that you use in order to still have that motivation to go and work out?
Honestly, a lot of the times I resort to my why. Like, if you really truly are passionate about your goals and like what you want, you can get out of bed because you're like, you know what, I want this. I want to put, like, for me, I want to put on muscle. I want to get there. And if I skip my workout now, I'm going to have to make, like, for me, I take at least a day or two off. So I'm like, okay, on the weekend. So I'm like, well, if I skip my workout now, I'm just going to have to come do it this weekend. So that's another huge one, just kind of reminding yourself that, you're going to have to do it. You should do it. Like, at some point you need to get that workout in, especially if you have a split training. You don't want to skip a muscle group, right? Another thing that I've found that literally works is putting your alarm clock across the side of the room. Cliche as it is, you have to get up to turn it off, or you're just going to get mad listening to it go off. And also, if you have remote start your car. You have no excuse for not being able to run out to your car. Right?
Yep, 100%.
Leave your gym clothes.
Oh yeah, and when I started doing this, I had a 99 car, and that thing did, first of all, the heating was broken in that car. So when I would go outside, I would have to be in full winter gear, and I'd have to, wear gloves when I was driving. That was horrible, but I pushed through it, being used to all that cold weather. But yeah, it can be absolutely be a struggle, and especially with like seasonal depression, where a lot of times people get that because it can get dark for like 16 hours out of the day, where it's like, why do you want to go work out if it's dark at like 4 o'clock? It can just feel kind of odd, which is another thing. But one of the most important things that a lot of people, you never really see this on Instagram for any of these posts that people make, is sleep. Sleep is so important when it comes to muscle recovery, when it comes to just being able to get up the next day and do that workout. I had the number one sleep specialist on the world from the UK come on, and first of all, he had one of those accents where just by talking to him, you just felt smarter. He had like one of those like really uppity British accents where you're just like, okay, yeah, I was like, just keep talking. You just sound so intelligent. But yeah, sleep can be so important. Was that ever a struggle that you really struggled with? Because a lot of people, they get up really early that we have on. They get up really early to do their cardio. Sometimes their sleep, it seems to be the one thing that suffers. But have you found a healthy balance that gets you the proper amount of sleep?
I have. I mean, I give up watching, TV, and I give up, spending time lounging around, because I know that sleep is important. And I knew that just because of the way my body responds to little sleep. And kind of when you see your body gaining weight, it kind of freaks you out. So you're like, oh, I need to sleep. I need to sleep. I need to sleep. The scale keeps climbing. But either way, sleep is so important for, like you said, for muscle recovery, for stress, for weight loss. I mean, it is a must. I mean, you as an adult, if you're still tired after 8 hours of sleep, your body is telling you something. It's telling you it needs more. So listen to your body. If you're tired, there's a reason you're tired.
Absolutely. I always got to say, the hardest workout I ever did was one time in college where I didn't get any sleep at all the night before, and I went in the next morning to work out. That was the hardest workout I've ever had to do. I normally worked out for like an hour and 15 minutes, and after about 45 minutes, I was like, screw this. I'm done. I'm done. I was just dead. And plus, I was like, this isn't going to amount to anything because there's no way that I can build anything when I'm not on any sleep. But I just basically went in just so that I could tell myself that I worked out that day, so that I wouldn't have to think about going in. But yeah, that was definitely one of the hardest things. But now when I started getting bigger and stronger in college, the one negative thing for me is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next few months. Every time they come home with food, I basically lift the car into the driveway. Has that been a similar struggle with you, where you find that just because of the way that you look, people assume that you can do favors for them like that?
Yes, I do. I think my boyfriend kind of jokes around with me when he is like, oh, open this jar for me. But no, most definitely, people definitely are like, oh, yeah, like, can you do this for me? I know that you... And it's not even like just because of like the strength either, but they try and have me do other favors. Like, oh, can you like do my nutrition, or can you do this? I'm like, yes, I can, but like, this is my job. So it's just kind of, they try and like take advantage of you. And I don't blame them, when you know somebody.
Yep. And like I said, every weekend, basically last summer, it would be like, hey, Ryan, I got to move. Can you help me move my chair, my couch? And it got to a point where I was just like, okay, I recognize that, and being 6'3" too, I mean, I could have no muscle at all, and I'd walk down the street and people would think that I could help them out with stuff. So it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, it got to a point where I just accepted it. And now you did mention that you have a boyfriend, and I always love to ask these few questions to people that are in relationships or engaged or whatnot. So how did you and your boyfriend meet?
Oh gosh. I was a bartender for a time, and I met him while I was bartending.
Ooh. That's the first bartending story that we've had. And now for our last question on that, where did you go for your first date?
Oh gosh. I don't even remember.
What?
No, because I was always working, and in college,
yeah.
he was like, he would just come and see me at the bar.
Okay.
That was kind of I want to say Texas Roadhouse, though. That's always been our go-to. And if we go out somewhere, we go to Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, yep. Well, again, I mean, everyone out there, I mean, I love hearing those stories. But now, I mean, this is my absolute favorite question. It's a multi-million-dollar idea for anyone out there listening. When it comes to clothes for fit women, your clothing options can be limited. I mean, like I always say, if you have big shoulders, dresses are not your best friend. Jeans are another problem that we hear of all the time, where it's just a pain to find the right pair or get stretchy ones. But what are some tips and tricks that you use to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited as opposed to someone else's?
Sorry, I about swore. My goodness. Embrace them. Embrace the curves. Like, yeah, your jeans are going to be super loose at the top, but they fit your rump. No one's looking at your waist anyway. It's kind of, and it is. I mean, you can't there's no really like fit person size, like you said, with the shoulders, but yet your waist is still really lean. You can't wear certain shirts. I mean, just wear your gym clothes. It's fine. Everybody you still look great.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said out there, if anyone comes up with like dresses or like business suits for guys that work, I mean, it's like, that's you're going to make a lot of money off of that. So get on it and get on it fast. But now we go to my personal favorite and the audience personal favorite part of the podcast, where we do a little questionnaire. I'm going to ask Olivia here about a dozen or so questions that I ask all my other health and fitness guests, and we're going to see how she stacks up to them. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Oh gosh, I'm super lame. Super lame. I like hardly ever use my headphones. I'm trying to think. Anything Kesha. Woman, there for a while, like really got me going.
That is our first Kesha that we've had on the board. For me personally, I mean, I'm like an old school, like 80s music, just the cheesy 80s songs that definitely get me going. But yeah, Kesha, we've had the first Kesha on the board. But now for our second question, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good one. Easily Ryan Gosling, not because he's like a fitness person, but because he's gorgeous.
Yep.
Or Matthew McConaughey. I love him.
Well, here's the only problem about Matthew McConaughey, though, is that most people don't realize that Matthew McConaughey is one of those guys that he even admits that he never showers. So he just has like a stink. Like even all the actors that have worked with him have been like, oh god, he smells kind of bad. But yeah, I mean, showered Matthew McConaughey, yeah,
Totally.
then I could totally see that. I mean, for me, it would just be like an Arnold or something like that, just because it's Arnold. I mean, Dwayne The Rock Johnson is the answer that we get 95% of the time, so thank you for mentioning someone else. But yeah, Ryan Gosling, yeah, that's a great choice too. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Huh, that was a good one. Dang it. If I could train somebody. Well, I just want to spend more time with Ryan.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, just give me more time with him. We'll go with him.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling. I mean, again, that's the first time we ever had him on, and he's on twice, everyone. So we got Ryan Gosling on twice. Now for our next question, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Sweet potatoes. No, peanut butter. Absolutely peanut butter. If I don't have peanut butter, I'm not happy.
You put peanut butter in your fridge?
Oh, yeah. Old Home peanut butter. It has no hydrogenated oils. It's literally peanuts. It's amazing.
Because I have like the old Jiffy stuff where you just put it in a cupboard and then just have it sit.
Read your labels. It might say something like partially hydrogenized oil or something like that. So it's still trans fat.
Well, and I hate to say this, I saw this on a video where like the amount of stuff that they can legally put in peanut butter, like sometimes they put like insects or stuff like that in it to really just make up for it. Yeah. I love having my PB&Js, but still, I think about it every once in a while. So yeah, and I mean, that's the first peanut butter that we've actually ever had, because we normally get like chicken or egg whites on the podcast. Or one of the things that really surprised me was mustard was also an answer that we've gotten about 5 different times, and that's because it has like 0 calories, 0 fat. So then a lot of bodybuilders that we have on, they just put it on their chicken just to add flavor to it. But I always say, if you have to do that, you might want to have to reevaluate your life if you're having to put mustard on chicken to make it taste better. But yeah, so now for our next question, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
Oh, I think my profile my profile doesn't depict how vulgar I am. I am very much tomboyish, and I swear like a sailor. I'm not. My Instagram, I try and keep it a little PG-13.
Well, that's the first time that we've had that answer. Usually a lot of it is like people don't realize that some of these people that are posting on Instagram, they make themselves look a lot taller than they actually are. So like you'll meet them at a show and they'll be like, oh, I'm only like 5 feet tall. And it's like, oh, well, you look like you're 5'8" and you're in some of your photos.
That's funny, because that's what I was going to say at first, but I'm like, everybody knows I'm short.
Yeah. And I get the exact opposite, because like I'm just naturally, I just stand out in a crowd. So yeah. That's one thing that we hear definitely all the time. But now, what was the last TV show that you binge watched?
Shameless, and I've watched it twice.
Ooh, I've never seen that, but I've heard it's pretty good, so I might want to.
It matches my personality. Vulgar, vulgar, stupid.
Well, yeah, and I like that. The vulgar, the better for me, at least show wise. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Of all time, I really like The Vikings.
Oh, yep.
On Amazon Prime, that one was awesome.
Oh, not Vikings, the one on History Channel?
No, like The Vikings off of, I think they're the same actually, but it goes on to Amazon Prime once it's aired.
Oh, yeah. So,
like with Ragnar Lothbrok and Bjorn. Yes.
Okay, so you are going to freak out when you hear about this though, but I'm actually a descendant of Rolo, an actual like of the real Rolo. Yeah. We traced it back like about 10 years ago and we found it. Yeah, that's where that's a lot of my Scandinavian. Then he lived in France, but then his family then moved back to Norway after like about 50 years. So then that's where I get mine from. But yeah, from them. So when I found that out and I heard that they were going to do a show about him, like, yeah, that's one of my favorite shows too. It's just to realize that I'm actually related to all those people that are on the show. It's like it's insane. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Oh, The Lion King 2. I'm a child at heart. I really am.
The Lion King 2.
Any Disney movie like that just like makes my heart happy.
Yeah, they have some good ones. I have actually not seen The Lion King 2.
Lion King 2 is way better than Lion King 1 and 1.5.
Can we just say that The Lion King is just a complete ripoff of Hamlet too? Like it's basically Hamlet in cartoon form. Like it's the exact same plot. So that's why like when I first read Hamlet, I was like, oh, this is just like Lion King. And I was like, oh, but it was written 400 years before Lion King. So that might be a little something different. So yeah, after that, I didn't become that big of a fan of Lion King because I was like, yeah, it's just a complete ripoff. And so yeah, I mean, but for me, all of my guy friends, close your ears. You never heard this. Princess Bride is my ultimate guilty pleasure movie. I'll watch that. It's my ultimate date night movie or anything like that. If it's on, I was typing my final thesis in college, and that movie came on, and I stopped typing my thesis for 2 hours just to watch that movie. I mean, it's one of those movies I can quote a lot of it, and it's just that's just a special movie to me. But now, all my guy friends, you can listen again. But again, I'll never admit that in public. But now, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Oh gosh, I'm the least fashionable person imaginable.
Oh no! First of all, I am. I'll go shopping and I'll literally just tell the person anything. What's the cheapest thing? I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite fashion trend. Oh my gosh, like I literally went to school for apparel merchandising, and I can't even think of any trends. I think I really have always liked like the flapper type trend. I don't that the 1920s was like my favorite era when we were studying history. I just loved to see the different dresses and hairstyles, and just that was super cool. I would say my least favorite set bell bottoms, like the 70s stuff. Like I hate floral to this day. I loathe floral.
Yeah, that stuff is bad too. Bell bottoms is a popular answer for me. My favorite's got to be flannel, especially coming up in the winter, just because it's so comfy and it doesn't. I mean, it's one of those things will kind of always be around where it's very comfy. But my least favorite, fanny packs. I'm sorry, no, and let me be specific. Guys wearing fanny packs. Girls can get away with fanny packs, but guys. I mean, my dad in the late '90s used to rock a fanny pack, and that still scars me to this day. Like we'll see old family photos, and I was like, Dad, what were you thinking? So yeah, fanny packs. That's one thing. I mean, it's got to go. But now, I mean, if you could change anything about the sport of bodybuilding, if you had the all-knowing power to change something, what would it be?
To make it 100% natural. One, it's more rewarding when it's natural, and two, I just don't think it's fair for those of us that want to step onto an NPC stage, but we don't have as good of luck because everybody else is on roids, and and some like I know people that aren't that place really well on the NPC, but it just takes so much longer for us to be able to step on stage like that, and even to compete in like the Arnold, because those are NPC shows versus the natural shows. So I would say just making it so it's a drug free.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I've kind of, or just make a separate division that is just completely like we admit that we do drugs and then just let them go crazy and let them have their own thing or something like that. Yeah, I don't know, because like I just personally believe too where it's like even if you did make it all natural though, people's genetics still make it unfair. Where someone could just be just a freak genetic where they just be like, oh, that's not natural that someone can be that big. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. We're just making it an even playing field for everyone, and I totally support that. But now, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
To get her head out of her butt, that partying is fine, but and to an extent, just to really focus on finding myself versus following the crowd.
100%. That's ultimately my answer for everything when it comes to that. I mean, I was always a big people pleaser, and it's like find yourself. You don't always have to please others. That's definitely a huge thing for me. But now for our last question, the questionnaire: if you could have dinner with any historical figure out of all the people that have lived, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, that makes me a really crappy student because I can't even think of someone I've met with. Oh my goodness. I feel really crappy. I honestly, I don't even know. I don't know. I can't even think that far back. I honestly don't. Oh, Pocahontas. She's just cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, that would be.
And she's kind of like that century, just the early century of like fitness. That's what
Pocahontas?
Heck yeah, that woman is like, because Indians were just so hardworking. Like,
oh yeah.
Like they didn't have to lift necessarily, but they were always in shape and worked hard, and so yeah, I would say Pocahontas.
So again, I'm also a direct descendant of people that came over on the Mayflower and had contact with Pocahontas and her tribe. So, I mean, I'm connected to basically, like, when it comes to early American history, I'm connected. Like, I'm also a direct descendant of the guy that found Rhode Island, that discovered it, and they named Providence after him because that was his nickname, Roger Williams.
Wow.
So I have a really big thing. So, yeah, whenever people, like, say, like, historical stuff, yeah, but for me, it would be, like, a George Washington or a Thomas Jefferson, where that would definitely be my thing, where I'd love to sit down with them and have a chat. But now, I mean, we're done with the questionnaire part of the podcast, but now, at what point in your journey did you decide that you wanted to become a personal trainer?
When I decided that, I had people reaching out like, hey, like, can you help me? Like, what, I realized that, I can help a lot of people. Like, so why not do that? And so that's kind of, and I found kind of what drove me. So.
Oh, absolutely. And now, what is probably the biggest excuse that you hear for people who don't, or what's their biggest excuse for not wanting to adapt a healthy and fit lifestyle?
They don't have time.
Yes.
It's just an excuse, people. You have time for whatever you prioritize.
100%. We have nurses on here that work 14-hour shifts and they're still able to get their workout in. I mean, it's like we all have the same 24 hours. It's all about priorities. And now, I mean, are there any shows that you're currently getting ready to compete for, or are you just sort of taking it easy? What is your future looking like for you? Do you have any shows in mind?
I'm gonna take it easy. My body went through literally hell and back this last prep, so it really needs some time to get back to just being healthy and happy. So maybe one next fall, but I don't want to promise anything to myself or to anybody else. So.
Oh yeah. So now that we're getting close to the Christmas season, I mean, Christmas is a little less than 2 weeks away. Are you one of those people where you have to still be on your diet when you're eating, when it's around Christmas time, where you can't, where you don't indulge, or do you just kind of say, like, it's once a year, I'll let myself indulge a little bit? How do you sort of balance that?
Last year I was definitely very much on diet. Thanksgiving, this year I did indulge, but I've actually, with my coming off my last prep, I've really struggled with binge eating because, a lot has changed. I'm more stressed out. So, what I will do is I will plan out a certain amount of food that I will eat at Christmas dinner, but I will also be sure to like stay on track, just because I know that I don't have the self-control to completely like just wing it that day.
You brought up an interesting topic that I've never asked, and it's one of those things that I wish I'd remind myself to ask, but now that you finally mentioned it, I'm thankful. But when it comes to, a lot of people just don't realize too, the stress thing is so important. If you're stressed out and you do everything else perfect, you can still put on weight. Have you studied, or do you know what specifically causes that to happen in your body, where if you just get stressed out, you just put on more weight?
I haven't studied it, but I do know that the more stress your body's under, the less responsive it becomes.
Oh.
I experienced that during prep. That's why, low calories, that's a stressor. Work, that's a stressor. So if you have a high, like, life stress, and then you add working out and dieting and prep to your life stress, you're screwing yourself over, and that's why you're not going to lose weight, and that's why you can even gain weight. So you really have to focus on de-stressing, any way you can. I take ashwagandha. I have no idea if I said that right. It's a natural supplement, really helps with energy and with, like, it's a natural distressor. Yoga is great, meditation, deep breathing before bed. Definitely watch your stress levels, because it can honestly make or break progress. So.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I totally recommend everyone out there to go check out Olivia. I'll leave a link to her Instagram down below. And I mean, just looking at her, I mean, you'll be inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies and, adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle. And is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
I'd like to give a shout out to my clients. Most definitely. They are what drive me and inspire me each and every day. You guys are freaking amazing. And I'm so blessed to have you part of Team Live Fit. So.
Everyone, go check that out, Team Live Fit. I'll also leave the link down to her Facebook page. I mean, I highly recommend that you go and check it out. And just especially during this holiday season, I just want to leave a message out there to everyone. It's like, it's okay to eat a lot. It's okay to indulge during the holiday season. I mean, it's like everyone's going to be all panicky, and I can guarantee, New Year's Day, the gyms are just going to be absolutely packed and flooded with people who just want to lose weight. But it's like, it's okay. You can indulge yourself 100%. And again, you guys, Olivia Ingledue, I mean, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast. It was great talking to you, and everyone, go follow her. Like I said, links down below. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the Spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.